This is a Hot Pie Media original.
There's a lot to this. It's not just a sensational story. It's not just a football story, not just a mental health story. It's a media story. It's got a lot of angles to it that just it keeps sort of playing itself out. I'm curious about, in the moment, the reaction most people had. Did you feel the same way? I know how I felt almost immediately. The story of Antonio Brown it's got a lot of layers. It wasn't long ago, to be fair, I was, and feel perfectly comfortable doing it, which is another part of the story. I was ripping Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was or is, well, I think technically is, but about to be was, an employee of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He missed a few games and was fined because of fake COVID cards. I ripped him for it, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. The reaction to him is pretty fascinating. The reaction to the reaction is also now fascinating. So if you criticize him now publicly, you are insensitive to the problems, to his problems, his mental health problems. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. Look, let's be clear. Antonio Brown I agree. And my reaction was, not only is this guy a pain in the ass diva, it's kind of sad. I had that reaction. I had that reaction of, wow, that's just not going to end well. That's kind of pathetic. He goes from a guy that's easy to dislike to, oof, that's kind of ugly and not going to end well. But let's be a little careful. Let's stop the lectures. Terry Bradshaw, old Terry Bradshaw, who I find is kind of entertaining. That's what his job is, to be entertaining. He offers his opinions, and he ripped Antonio Brown. Then Terry Bradshaw is being ripped for being insensitive to mental health issues. Terry Bradshaw, to be clear, has been very public in his fight against depression for some time. Antonio Brown is not incapacitated. Okay? He obviously has some issues. And you feel like it's not going to end well. This is not going to be a funny story and a funny guy to pick on because it's not going to end well. You just feel that. But this screaming and yelling at anyone that calls him out for his storming off the field and throwing his shirt at the crowd, I think is a little too much. It's a little too much. I'm not denying that it just feels icky. It doesn't feel like it's going to end well. But everybody has a right to rip the guy from the middle of the game, throwing his shirt at everyone and then going to Twitter to talk about it. The guy's not curled up in a ball somewhere. Antonio Brown sort of is a superstar player, I think it's was now, and I think it's was for some time, unless, of course, he gets another job. And unless, of course, it's with the team that's going to win the Super Bowl, according to Don Hoffhines. Unless, of course, somebody hires him who really, really needs a talented player at wide receiver right now. Don Hoffhines, meet Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, meet Jerry Jones. Oh, my gosh. I can only hope. But Antonio Brown was kicked off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a bizarre shirtless exit from the field before, of course, Tom Brady takes Tampa Bay 93 yards. They beat the Jets 28-24. It's the Jets. Let's not get too excited. Then after the game, so he rips his shirt off, rips all of his stuff off. He's running around, waving at the crowd. It is just a bizarre spectacle. Coach Bruce Arians said after the game that Brown was off the team. He's no longer a Buccaneer. So he gets in an argument on the sidelines. Happens all the time. Gets in an argument with a coach. That also happens all the time. He takes everything off and he throws his stuff in the stands. He's in New York. He's not in Tampa Bay. And then he walks off, or actually jogs off the field and is waving at the crowd. The story goes that there's different stories now, of course. Arians says, I wanted him to go back in the game. He refused. I told him, you're done then. Then that's when he flipped out. Antonio Brown, of course, who is Kardashian-like in his use of social media, has said I had a bad ankle, whatever. As an employee, the guy is a pain in the ass. It's just too much. The thing about Antonio Brown, and I'm not dismissing, I had the same feeling and I still have the same feeling. This is not going to end well. This guy is not well. He's a mess. He's a mental mess, a sad mental mess, but he is not incapacitated. He is, as an employer, he's just become too much of a pain in the ass. Although he's so good when he's right, and I'm selfishly going to say it, old Jerry Jones can fix him. Jerry can put his arm around him. Jerry knows depression. Jerry knows anxiety. Jerry, to hear Jerry tell you, he'll fix it. I'll take care of this kid. I can only hope. It would be fascinating. I'm saying that selfishly. And I don't think it happens. I think this guy's done. I think he's done for good because no matter how good he is, it's just, he's too much of a pain in the ass. The man was 8 catches and 55 yards away from achieving all of his bonuses. He threw his clothes in the stands and ran off the field when he only needs 55 yards to get $3 million. Now, I'm not arguing that he is mentally unstable. I'm just saying how bizarre this is. He was given a lifeline by Tom Brady. Tom Brady said, I need the guy. I want the guy. Tom Brady gave him multiple lifelines. The guy had fake COVID cards for reasons that are beyond me, and they still brought him back. So he's just, as an employee, he's just not worth it.
John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce in all 50 states, now in several retail outlets as well. So we're going to turn it over to the social media rock chef superstar, and we're going to walk through a few sauces and why you should buy. We've done Beat Heat, so we're second in line now for the tasting. Don't forget, everyone, go to atxhotsauce.com. So here we go.
All right, so this one is our smoked habanero 5-pepper. We smoke habaneros with ancho, pasilla.
Is that going to hurt?
This one? No,
Yeah.
This one's actually really, really good.
Okay.
This is like your traditional tapatilla, but without the vinegar in it, right? And because of that fermentation process that we've talked about all the time. This one is great on sandwiches, pizzas, things like that. Great on hot wings. I think you're going to really like this one too, especially the smoky flavor with the adobe chipotle and the smoked habaneros. We actually smoked the habaneros before we...
Does that go with a cab?
This would not go with cab. This would go with the great Chenin Blanc, though.
I knew you were gonna, I teed you up with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
That is good.
That's good. Isn't that good? It's just classic take. Well, it's a new take on a classic item. So it's called smoked habanero 5-pepper.
All right, don't forget
One of my
ATX.
favorites.
Don't forget atxhotsauce.com.
Now, you want to get into what kind of help he can get, what happens to him. I don't know. So then, of course, he leaves the game. He gets a ride somehow out of the stadium. Then he goes straight to social media, starts taking pictures of himself. He starts tweeting pictures, calling himself the Super Gremlin. I don't know what that means. He's saying he doesn't need football. He tweeted out a photo of himself without his Bucs gear. The wide receiver posted twice to Instagram. This is right after the game, or even probably at halftime, or just after halftime. He unfollowed the team account and Brady's. In addition to the photo he'd already posted on Twitter, football is what I do. No, football is what we do, not who we are. Love. I don't know. I don't know how to. He's a mess. Kind of a scary mess. But Tom Brady, this is right after the game. I mean, you talk about, and I think it was so disturbing to everyone, even Brady. You talk about taking the high road. I mean, here, one of your best players just walks out, throws his clothes in the stands, and walks out on you when you're out of players. I mean, Tampa Bay Dallas. They need him. They need him. I mean, they've had a bunch of guys get hurt. So this is how cool Brady is. This is what a nice guy, to be honest, Brady is. Most of us in that moment would have ripped the guy, trashed the guy, thrown him under the bus. I mean, we would understandably be furious. And if there was a post-game news conference that you thought would produce some anger, it wasn't this.
How disappointed are you? Bruce Arians said he's no longer a Buck.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a difficult situation. And, I think we all want, him to just think everybody should find, hopefully do what they can to help him in ways that he really needs it. And, we all love him. We care about him deeply. We want to see him be at his best. And, unfortunately, won't be with our team. But, we have a lot of friendships that will last. And, again, I think the most important thing about football are the relationships with your friends and your teammates, and they go beyond the field. And, I think everyone should be very compassionate and empathetic toward, some very difficult things that are happening. With the guys that were in the game, we're in the game focused too. So I didn't know too much until after the game, to be honest. So, I was just out there playing, trying to do my job.
You want a Tom Brady moment? A fascinating, interesting Tom Brady moment? One, this is how good he is. This is what I tell people all the time. You want your quarterback to be a surgeon. A surgeon. Block out the world, a surgeon. He's running out of receivers. Okay? This is Brady's hire. This guy was Tom Brady's hire. Tom Brady went out on a limb to bring him there. Tom Brady said, I want him here. When the guy is selling fake COVID cards, he said, I don't care. I want him here. Nobody was burned more by this meltdown, sad, tragic, bizarre meltdown than Tom Brady. I mean, that's the guy who he easily could have said, yeah, I'm pissed. I stuck my neck out for this guy. I did everything. I gave him everything. Instead, one, he doesn't lose sight. He just calmly does what? Wins the game. The blimp could hit the stadium and Tom Brady's still going to find a way to win a game. His best and only player, his best hire, walked out on him in the most bizarre way possible, and the guy still goes down the field and wins a game, and then has the class to do that in the post-game news conference. I mean, look, this is not days later when you've had time to let it sink in. This is not even having perspective. All he knows is the guy, my receiver, just ran out of the stadium without his clothes on. And then he sat down and handled it like that. It was I thought it was masterful. And the football world is freaking out in the moment. And the one person who doesn't is Tom Brady. It was just such an interesting, you talk about summarizing this guy's career kind of in about 2 minutes. One, he proves he's the ultimate surgeon. Nothing phases him. He won't let it. Two, he ends up being a really nice guy to a guy who he did everything for. Now that was a pretty impressive move. I think Brady's news conference kind of toned down the entire discussion around the country. A lot of people are worked up about, you can't criticize him. Let's talk about his mental health. And it's fair. I had the same reaction. I thought, wow, this isn't funny and this isn't weird. It's just dangerous. It is not a good look. But Brady did the most impressive job of anyone in the moment of toning everything down. For a guy, if anyone should have been furious, if anyone should have ripped him, it should have been Tom Brady.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.